Night fell over the forest without warning. It wasn't one of those slow sunsets painted in orange and rose. At some point, the sky simply grew heavy and dark, and the forest began to sound different, as if someone had turned down the volume of the world. Lera walked along the path she had known all her life. As a child, she had run down this trail with her cousins. As a teenager, she would sneak into the very same forest to breathe away from home and its arguments. Now, as an adult, she still came whenever the city grew too loud. She knew where the big stones were, the treacherous roots, even the dry trunk that always creaked the same way when you walked past it. But tonight, the forest felt like someplace else. The moon was nowhere to be seen. Thick clouds covered the entire sky, and a low fog crawled between the trunks. It wasn't the soft dawn kind. This was a dense layer that clung to her legs, cold and damp. Each step pressed her sneakers deeper into the soft earth. Lera checked her phone. 14% battery. She bit her lip. "I'll be fine," she murmured to herself. "It's not that late." She put the phone away and moved on. At first, the path felt familiar. Tall trees on both sides, some marked with old scars, the gentle curve to the right, the big rock shaped like a hunched back. But gradually, the details began to slip. A trunk she didn't remember, a hollow where there should have been grass, a fork in the path that had never existed. "I'm just distracted," she thought. "I'm tired. That's why everything feels strange." But the forest wasn't just strange. It was watching her. She realized it when the sound of her own footsteps stopped being the only one. Every time her shoe touched the damp ground, something behind her brushed the soil with the same rhythm. A soft noise, like fabric dragging, like fingers stretching their reach over dry leaves. She froze. The forest froze with her. Her heartbeat pounded in her chest. She listened closely. All she heard was her own breathing, fast and shallow. Then, half a second later, something in the darkness stopped as well. That tiny delay was worse than any roar. She pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the fog, drawing pale lines between the trunks. Everything seemed still. Dark bark, bare branches, a sheet of mist hugging the ground. Turning slowly in a circle, she swept the light around. Nothing. The forest looked empty, too empty. No insects, no night birds, not even the smallest crackle. When she lowered the light toward the ground, the beam slid over something that didn't belong there. A few meters ahead, nestled between the roots of a pine, lay something pale and elongated. At first Lera thought it was a fallen branch, stripped clean by moisture. But the branch moved. Two impossibly long fingers, white as chalk, snapped back, vanishing behind the trunk. The skin was smooth, with no nails, no wrinkles, nothing but a tense, cold surface. Lera took a step back. The flashlight trembled in her hand. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." She switched off the light on instinct, as if darkness could hide her too. All she did was make the forest even blacker. Night turned solid. The smell changed. A thick, damp scent drifted toward her, like freshly turned earth mixed with rusty metal. Heavy, clinging, settling in the back of her throat. Then she heard the sound again. Scrape, scrape, scrape. This time it didn't mimic her steps. It was approaching, slow, steady, inevitable. She flicked the flashlight on again. The beam shook wildly. Nothing ahead. Nothing to the right. Nothing to the left. Between two trunks, something darted back. Fast, like a spider startled by light. A thin white shape, folding itself unnaturally before vanishing into the fog. Lera's knees nearly buckled. Her battery blinked. 9%. "I have to get out," she said aloud, needing to hear her own voice, needing someone, anyone, to believe her. Just follow the path. It's the same as always. The same as always. She walked faster, but now the trail shifted every few steps. Where there should have been a gentle turn, there was a sharp one. Where there should have been a fallen tree, there was nothing. The forest didn't feel like the place she had grown up in, but like a copy built from memory, a memory assembled wrong. The steps behind her synced with her own again. One step from her, one scrape. One step, one scrape. One step. Then two scrapes, as if the thing had closed part of the distance. She noticed she no longer felt the wind. The treetops didn't move. No birds, no normal forest whispers. The night was perfectly still, drawn tight like a thread ready to snap. She started to run. Cold air tore at her lungs. The soft soil suddenly turned to a tangle of roots, then mud, then loose stones, as if the forest kept changing skins beneath her feet. Branches whipped her arms and face. She stumbled and fell to her knees, fingers digging into the dirt. She pushed up and kept running, refusing to look back. The sound behind her changed too. No longer gentle scrapes, now hard, uneven thuds, like something long and skeletal using 4 points to push itself forward. Not human footsteps, bones hitting earth. Against every instinct, she turned her head. The flashlight caught it for a second. Between the trunks, crawling on all fours, was a white figure so thin its skin looked ready to rip. Its limbs were too long, its joints in the wrong places. No clothes, no hair, just pale skin stretched over a badly assembled skeleton. Its head hung low, but as the light reached it, it snapped upward. 2 completely black eyes stared at her. No pupils, no shine, absorbing the beam instead of reflecting it. The jaw opened slowly, wider and wider, past anything that had bone to hold it in place. Lera screamed, her voice swallowed by the fog. The creature froze. It didn't blink, didn't move, just watched her. The trembling beam of her flashlight shimmered over its skin, which seemed to drink the light whole. The phone vibrated, 1% battery. The flashlight died. Darkness slammed shut around her like a door. The forest disappeared. Nos chaps, no shadows. Nothing, only thick blackness. Lera stood paralyzed, breathing so fast she felt faint. Her hands shook violently. Then she heard it. Not a sound through the air, but a voice inside her head, like a thought that didn't belong to her. Lera. The voice was slow, strained, as if squeezing through a too tight space. Each syllable scraped like glass inside her skull. Lera swallowed hard. She couldn't see anything. Her legs refused to move. Lera. I see you. The air around her dropped in temperature. Not the usual chill of a damp night, but something deeper, as if it rose from underground. A cold breath grazed her face. Not wind, something exhaled without lungs. She turned on the flashlight in blind panic. The screen lagged, then flickered to life. The creature was less than 2 meters away. It wasn't standing. It wasn't crouched. It was folded over itself, balancing on 4 bone-like limbs. Its back arched at an impossible angle. Its head dangled forward, as if it might fall off. The light made it tilt its head, curious. It didn't retreat. It didn't flee. It simply rotated its face until its black eyes aligned with hers. The voice echoed again in her skull. You're alone. Lera stepped back, tripped on a root, and fell. The flashlight flew from her hand, landing sideways and casting an upward light that warped the creature's silhouette. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the grass. The forest opened and closed at once. The trees formed a circle around her. She was in a clearing, perfectly round, with no visible exit. She had never seen this place, though she knew the forest by heart. The creature glided closer, silent, weightless. Its hands, if they were hands, dug into the soil. Fingers like dry twigs, ending in rounded tips, nail-less, cracked as if drying from within. Lera wanted to scream, but her throat locked tight. The voice sharpened. I've seen you before. Images that weren't hers flashed. Her bedroom window at midnight. Her bed seen from outside. Her own sleeping form turned to the wall. A long shadow at the foot of her bed. The faint reflection in the glass when she woke to get water. A noise she once dismissed as the house settling. Lera understood. This wasn't the first time it had been near her. Not the first night it watched her. Not the first time its black eyes followed her from some unseen corner. The creature tilted its head, savoring her realization. You don't run, now. The flashlight on the ground flickered with her trembling. The beam crawled over the creature's skin. It reached out a hand toward her. Slowly, carefully, like someone approaching something fragile. The cold hit her before the touch, sharp, metallic, as if the air itself froze. The world shrank to the distance between her face and those fingers. The voice whispered one more time. I found you, then. Hey! A human shout ripped through the clearing. The creature froze, its hand hovering inches from her skin. Its head snapped toward the noise so fast the skin on its neck stretched taut. A blinding beam, strong, steady, professional, cut through the fog and struck the creature full in the body. For the first time that night, Lera realized she wasn't alone. This was no weak phone flashlight. This was a heavy, solid beam, one meant for search and rescue. It hit the creature like a blow. The thing recoiled violently. The scream it released wasn't human or animal. It sounded like multiple voices shattering inside a metal tube. A piercing, slicing noise that vibrated the air. Lera covered her ears. The man's flashlight illuminated the entire clearing. The perfect circle, the tight ring of trunks, the hanging fog. The creature writhed at the edge of the light, trying to slip back into darkness. "Get out!" the man shouted. "Go!" He shined the beam directly at its face. The skin tightened, cracked. Its limbs folded like an exposed insect. Then it twisted aside and vanished into the trees with impossible speed. Silence returned. Not the dead silence from before, but a living one. A branch snapped somewhere. A distant insect buzzed. The forest was reconnecting with itself. The man lowered his flashlight and walked toward her, his steps steady and human. "Can you stand?" he asked bluntly. Lera tried, but her legs buckled. The man holstered the weapon slung over his shoulder, stepped closer, and helped her up by the arm. He had a several-day beard, a dark cap, and a thick mud-stained jacket. His eyes were tired, not surprised. He scanned the clearing like someone who had done it many times before. "Let's go," he said. "Staying here is a bad idea." They walked in a direction opposite the one she believed the path was. It worried her, but she didn't have the strength to argue. His flashlight carved a corridor through the fog. The trunks that had felt suffocating now retreated from the light. "What was that?" she finally whispered. He waited a moment before answering, breathing heavily as if he had run too. "Call it whatever you want," he said. "Some call it the rake, others the thin one. I call it the Watcher." "The Watcher? It doesn't show up from nowhere," he continued. "Doesn't attack like a wild animal. It's not random. First it watches, chooses, follows someone for days, weeks, sometimes months, learns their habits, their fears, their patterns. And when it knows enough, it comes closer." The words hung thick in the fog. "Why me?" Lera asked. The man shifted the flashlight slightly, avoiding her face. "Because you opened the door without realizing it," he said. "Sometimes all it takes is fear in the wrong place, coming back too many times, ignoring that shiver on your neck when you tell yourself it's nothing. It grips onto that, slips in through it." A memory stabbed through her mind. Nights ago, waking for no reason, certain something stood at the foot of her bed. She turned on the light, saw nothing, laughed at herself, and hid under the pillow. It didn't feel funny anymore. "And you?" she asked. "Who are you?" "The one who has to come when people wander too deep," he replied. "I work these woods. Used to just be hunters, the lost, the drunk. Now, other things. You've seen it before? Too many times. No heroism, only exhaustion." Suddenly the trail looked familiar again. A fallen trunk, a rock shaped like a crouching dog, the faint smell of firewood. They were nearing town. "That clearing," she murmured. "I've never seen it." "It's not always there," he said. "The forest opens it when it needs to, like a mouth." A chill rippled through her. "Is it dead?" she asked. He laughed once, without humor. "That thing doesn't die easily," he said. "And not from light and shouting. We just ruined its hunt for tonight. You scared it first. I just exposed it. I scared it. By running, screaming, forcing it into the open. As long as it stays hidden and you pretend nothing's wrong, it has control. When you see it, when you drag it into the light, it loses strength. Not all of it, but enough." Lera stayed quiet. The first houses appeared. A flickering street lamp, a dog barking. They stopped at the forest's edge. "You can walk from here," he said. "Your house must be close." She nodded, though her legs still trembled. "Will it come back?" she asked, already knowing the answer. He didn't respond immediately. He stared at the tree line, listening to something she couldn't hear. "If I say no," he said eventually, "I'd be lying, and lying won't help you." "Yes." It'll likely come back. It doesn't let go that easily once it's chosen someone. The words hit her like a second night. So, what do I do? Don't feed it, he said. Don't give it more fear than necessary. Don't stay alone in places that make you uneasy. Don't walk here at night. Don't ignore that smell of damp earth inside your house. If you feel it nearby, don't look for it. Run to people and light. It's not a guarantee, but it helps. And you? She asked. Aren't you afraid of it? He met her eyes for the first time. His gaze was clear but old. Of course I'm afraid, he said. I've just gotten used to living with fear sitting next to me. He adjusted his flashlight, turned, and vanished into the forest as if it swallowed him whole. Lera stood for a long moment, then walked toward home, feeling every dark window watching her. That night she left every light on. The TV muted, the hallway lamp, even the bathroom light. She checked under the bed, inside the closet, behind the curtains. Everything was fine. She locked the door. She crawled into bed and convinced herself the worst was over. Days passed. The memory stayed but blurred. The mind does that to protect itself. Sometimes she woke at midnight, heart racing, sure she'd heard something, then reassured herself it was just the building, the pipes, the wind. She went out again, checked her phone, lived her life, until one night at 3:17 a.m., she woke up for no reason. No dream, no noise, just a heavy emptiness in the air. The hallway light still glowed under the door. The dark TV reflected a faint shape of the bed. She stayed still, listening. Nothing at first. Then, far away behind the wall, click, a tight, damp sound like a dried joint forced too far. Click, click. The smell followed. Faint, but unmistakable. Wet earth, old and metallic. A scent that didn't belong in a clean room in a concrete building far from the forest. Cold crawled up her legs, as if the mattress had turned to ice. I don't want to look, she thought. I don't want to look. The strip of light under the door was straight, clean until it wasn't. Something passed through it. A long, thin shadow sliding silently across the doorway. Her heart slammed painfully. She squeezed her eyes shut, opened them again. The strip of light was whole once more, but the smell was stronger. Then, just like in the forest, the voice returned. Not from the hallway, not from outside. Inside her mind, dripping like cold water. Lera. Her breath snapped. Here, there were no trees, no moon, no fog, but the fear was the same or worse, because now it didn't need to cross a forest to find her. It knew where she slept, where she left her foot dangling off the bed. How many times she turned on the light before convincing herself nothing was there. The voice stretched one final sentence, every syllable a blade. You're not lost. Now your home is in my forest. The room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in. The mattress dipped near her feet, as if something unseen settled there, waiting for her to move. The clock on the nightstand kept ticking. Indifferent. 3:19. Somewhere far away, a dog barked at nothing. In the forest, the trees stayed still. They didn't need to move. The fear wasn't in the woods anymore. It was with her.